You got one life, for crying out loud. You might as well just give it all you got.
The Deej, Dan Jourdan.
Your daily dose of reality. Your daily dose of the Deej.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I need my daily dose of the Deej.
I make the news. I don't watch the news. I'm a leader.
The Sales Energizer, Dan Jourdan.
Listen, don't worry how to sell, baby. Worry about why people buy. And it's fun.
You don't need a 5-hour energy. All you need is the Sales Energizer.
Just when I think it's not going to be as fun as the one before, each one gets successfully better. What's the word I'm looking for? What's it going to take to get you into this car today, huh?
And now, please welcome the Sales Energizer, Dan Jourdan.
Boom! That's exactly it. Do that. Let's do that. Woo! There we go. You know, it's been a couple weeks there, Chris Stone.
I know. I need my daily dose of the Deej.
Everybody needs a daily dose. That's right. And don't worry about how to sell. Worry about why people buy. And it's fun.
I think that's my favorite part of that whole thing. It's fun. Because if it's not fun, stop doing it.
Okay, so big news. I know you went to Podfest and I want to hear about it.
Yeah.
But I got to, so this is because of this show, because of Chris Stone and his, producing prowess. Somebody saw me with something, on one of these shows. And so this past week, they flew me out to Utah to be the spokesman for their boat rental and resort place, Deer Creek Resort. Yeah, it was really cool. And so it was similar, just like that. So I'm very ADD and dyslexia and all that stuff.
No.
Yeah. So I can't read a script. So I had to do these safety videos and, tell them how to use this boat and this wave runner and all this stuff. And so it was the craziest thing. And it's because of you. It's nuts. So they would just tell me, okay, so they would give a little demo about the machine and what I'd have to say, whatever. And then there was a film crew there and a bunch of, people hanging around experts about the boats and the V drive and the Shmee drive and all that. And then they would tell me the thing, and then the camera crew says, action. And the next thing I know, I am with Chris Stone in my head and just pumping out stuff. By the end of it, they were calling me One Take Jourdan. I know, because there it is. It was really exciting. So I got to thank you ahead of time. And this is the thing. All salespeople and people in business today need to get comfortable on camera.
Yes.
And it's not just because you'll get to be a spokesman. One last thing, and then we got to bring the guest on because he's awesome. But one last thing. So there was a point that I was talking about wave runners. And so they said, just go out and take off. So I went out and take off, and I'm just like an animal, just going nuts, because when does this pasty white skin get out there and do that? And so I'm there just cranking around. Next thing I know, they have a drone over me, filming me. There was one scene that was so cool. I'm going to be the Deej is going to be the main video, on their website.
Oh, we need that for some B-roll footage.
I know.
We gotta
they're talking about B-roll. We need to do some VO for the B-roll. So
okay. Yeah. Well, one thing you can't do when you get on one of those wave runners is put your arms in the air, right? You can't. That's you're the arms in the air guy. You're the energy guy. You got to keep them at 10 and 2 on that.
Well, that's the whole thing, and that's why I'm so excited about this guest, because he actually does. He provides the energy for everybody, not just Deej energy. He provides energy for, vehicles that move and in houses and all sorts of stuff. And he's a young guy who's awesome, who started from nothing, as we like to say in Yiddish, goonish, and built this multi-million-dollar business, and he's going to show you how to do it too. So we got to bring him out here right now. Without any further ado, my new friend, I just snorted for some reason, my new friend, Aaron Luque.
Hey, how we doing?
My man.
What's going on?
Good to see. See, now there's a team player right there, Chris Stone.
Yes.
He couldn't do the 2 arms in the air because he's holding his phone, but he did the 1 arm. That's how it rolls here.
That's right. He could have canceled.
Office, man.
Yeah,
that's it.
Actually, where are you? You're at a bad word, aren't you?
What's that?
Well, where are you right now?
I'm at a power plant, but it's a hydroelectric plant.
I thought you were supposed to say I'm at the dam. I mean, what is this? I know. What is this? Your first time? I mean, we gotta get your. So you're an actual hydroelectric plant.
Mm-hmm.
For what purpose?
Well, we're actually up here. Georgia Power is a big partner of ours, so we're looking at doing some EV charging sites. I mean, I don't know how much you guys know about what we do, but all we're about is trying to get electric vehicle stations installed, around the country and around Georgia. And Georgia Power is a big partner of ours, and so we're doing some installs up here. And while we were up here, we thought we'd check out some of the production, the clean energy production that they're doing. So.
And so that's cool. So you're actually the person that does this. Like, so everybody's talking about these obviously these EV cars and stuff. But when you got started, how many years ago did you get started?
About 8 years.
8 years ago. So 8 years ago, yes, people are hearing about the electric cars and all that stuff, but it was like, you're in the future, you're wasting my time, it costs too much money, I'm not even going to bother with it. And you were starting then when nobody liked it. Now, of course, it's cool. How did you get started selling your first one?
Well, it's interesting. So, I mean, it goes back a little bit farther than that. I fell in love with sustainability, years before that, maybe 7 years before I started this company. I started a recycling company, which I still own today, but, really fell in love with all things sustainability. My favorite part about it was, I could get excited about it. My clients could get excited about it. And I never got buyer's remorse. Nobody ever called me up and said, "Hey, Aaron, I really wish we hadn't helped the environment together."
Right.
So that was pretty cool. So it was such a feel good industry, and I felt like we were doing something meaningful that would, make the world better. And so wanted to do something else. I'd been running my recycling company for about 8 years, grown it to, regional, then national, then international company. Wanted to do something else in the sustainability space. And, embarrassingly enough, and this was, maybe 2013, 2014, I had not even heard of Elon Musk at the time. Tesla was just starting to make waves, and my wife actually turned me on to, I wanted to do something else in sustainability. So I looked at solar, I looked at energy storage, I looked at LED retrofitting. But my wife said, "Man, we should look at electric cars." And this Elon Musk guy looks pretty cool. And the more I looked into electric cars, the more I was like, man, I think this could really be the future of transportation, and maybe there's a way to play some part in this revolution in making this a reality. And there's something for everybody. I mean, I could go on for days about why EVs are just so great in so many different ways. There's literally a reason for just about everybody to buy. But back then, there were two main barriers. So when I learned about how cool EVs were, I was like, man, how do we get more people to consider making this switch? And the two main barriers were awareness. People were like me. They didn't even know all the benefits. They didn't know how cool electric cars were or all the reasons why it might be worth, considering making that switch. And then the other thing was, people were afraid they were going to get stuck somewhere. There wasn't enough infrastructure. So even if you did know all the reasons why getting an electric car might be a good thing, there was still this hesitancy that even if I got one, I don't want to be worried all the time that I'm going to run out of electricity.
Right. But it wasn't at that time.
When your phone gets to 10%, you're freaking out. Imagine your means of transportation, right?
Yeah, but wasn't at that time everybody was doing hybrids? Wasn't that the whole, that would help you with that safety thing about getting stuck?
Yeah, and so that's even my first foray. I got a plug-in hybrid. Because I was nervous myself, but I wanted to kind of try the EV lifestyle, but I wanted to have that comfort zone of, having a gas backup in case I ran out, because there wasn't much charging around. And so that was the idea behind the whole company, was we want to try to get as many stations out there as we possibly can, with the idea that people will see them, become more aware of electric, vehicles, maybe look into them. And ultimately, every time somebody sees one of our stations that, maybe was installed which otherwise wouldn't have been there had we not gone out there and put it in. The idea that every time somebody saw one of those stations, they might be a little more comfortable with the idea of getting an electric car, or, you know, at least getting curious about it and looking into it. Because if you talk to, or maybe seeing somebody plugged in and ask him, hey, what you got there? So the more stations we could get out there, and it just, nothing makes me happier than hearing from my customers who said, I cannot believe how many people at my office or my apartment community or wherever, like, went out and got electric cars after the station was installed. It was like people wanted to get them, or maybe they didn't even know that they wanted to get them, but then once the station was there, they go, oh, this might be worth doing. And there's a lot of reasons I'd love to talk about it.
Well, well, we are. That's what we're here to do. You know, Denise Dickerson earlier said, you know, love the lack of buyer's remorse. The only people that know that phrase, buyer's remorse, are salespeople. And you obviously are one. A lot of people that watch this show are into sales to grow their business. And, you know, you started, you know, again, with an idea. You took that next step about putting it together. But I imagine getting your first customer was key in getting believability and getting financing and all that stuff. Tell us that story, if there is one. I see you're in a Tesla. It might be something related to that.
Well, that was, yeah, with this company specifically, but really, I mean, even my recycling company, I mean, it was all about, you know, I didn't know everything going into starting the company. It was about, like, having this cool idea and then wanting to see where it went, and not having all the answers before I started the business. And so, you know, once I kind of had a general idea of what I wanted to do and the space I wanted to be in, I started going to people that I thought might be a good customer and just, you know, walking in or calling them and you know, having conversations to see if I might be able to be helpful.
Wait a second. I have to stop you for a second, just for the benefit of the viewers here. Sure. You mean you just walked straight in without being invited?
Sure. And then it was very like, hey, I don't know if this is something that might be helpful to you guys, but here's what we're doing. And a lot of what was really good for me was, with whether it was my recycling company or even EnviroSpark, it doesn't cost anybody anything to kind of go through the process of seeing what working with us might look like and getting a proposal. And so it's like, it's like, hey, yeah, it may cost you a little bit of time or whatever, but if you're open to it, or you think it might be worth exploring, I'd love to, sit down with you, whether now or if we need to reschedule. But yeah, it was very, very kind of no pressure, right? It's like, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm excited about it. I don't know if you would be, but if you are, let's hang out and see if maybe we can do something together, and the environment really, and help the environment while we're doing it.
It's really that simple. On EnviroSpark for a minute, can you go through your progression of growth and in the years of how you've started?
So yeah, and so going back to the walk. So where we've come, I like to say we've come a long way, because I used to, Tesla had just opened a showroom here in Atlanta. We're based out of Atlanta, Georgia, and we basically, I would go to the local Tesla showroom that just opened, and I'd walk in and I would beg them, hey, if somebody buys a Tesla or picks it up, would you guys let me go to their house and install the charging station? And so that's kind of how we got started with Tesla. And it took a long time for it to get set up with them and gain their, gain their business and everything like that. But what was really cool was I think eventually they saw that we were all on the same team as them, because basically, traditionally, when somebody buys an electric car, you have to find a local electrician that maybe doesn't care about EVs or, has never installed a charger before. And, they're not bought into the industry the way that somebody like us, like EnviroSpark was. I mean, we live and breathe electric cars. Our success is built on the success of the EV industry. And so there's a natural alignment there with Tesla. And so I used to always as I started building my sales team, I would make the most junior sales rep bring coffee and donuts to the local Tesla showroom and all the local dealers that sold electric cars once a month. That was your job. Part of your responsibilities as the junior sales guy would be to have to deliver coffee and donuts and build a relationship. And again, just walk in and talk to them and, get to know the guys and see if there's ways where we might be able to help. And that ultimately led to us serving them, on a regional level, on a commercial level, and then ultimately on a national level. And so it all started kind of with just doing home installs, and then expanding both, the level of projects we would do in terms of, the difficulty and the nuance and everything else to the, so basic residential up to really high level, complicated commercial installs, but also the geographic breadth of the way that we serve them, all over the United States and Canada. And I think, by maybe 2017, I mean, we had done thousands of installations across the country for Tesla and many other partners as well. And around the same time, we also got partnered up with Georgia Power. They had just formed an electric transportation division that was devoted to, same goal as us, which was getting infrastructure out there. And so kind of got hooked up with them, and we started partnering up to figure out how can we get stations installed. Georgia Power had these great programs to promote EV infrastructure development. And
what do you mean by what do you mean by great programs?
They had programs that would help, fund the cost of installation projects for EV charging. So it made it easier for us. Once we were aware of these programs, we were able to go out and talk to, and so this was another kind of funny thing. They're like, well, who's your potential customer? What's your customer market? And I'm like, well, I mean, basically anyone with a parking lot, right? Like, so, so, because that was the idea. Is like, if you see a charger at your grocery store, you see it at your gym, you see it at your library. I mean, you get very comfortable. Like, oh, okay, I can pretty much charge it. So the idea for us was there was a program from Georgia Power that would help pay for some of the stuff. There was also federal programs as well. And part of what we would do is call people up and say, or walk in and say, hey, like, there's these great programs out there right now. It would, if you want to help support sustainability in our community, would love to kind of help you access some of that funding and maybe design a project. Doesn't cost you anything for us to figure out what that might look like, and then you can decide if you want to move forward or not. And
so if I'm
we're thinking about electric cars,
so if I own a strip mall, or I have a piece of property somewhere and what have you, you can go ahead and hook up and I wanted to hook up, I don't know, a couple of EV stations there just to drive, more people. I as a strip mall owner, it helps me with rentals, because people say, oh, this will bring more people to the parking lot to do that. So how much does that cost me? Ballpark, I'm not asking for numbers, but along with the Georgia Power program, how much potentially could that cost me?
Well, I mean, it depends. Our goal is to get this stuff put in for free for people. So a lot of times we can do that, or heavily subsidized. But the idea is, if somebody wants to do this, we want to help them figure out how to do that. And so every site is a little bit different. Every customer is a little bit different. But our goal is to help capture as much funding as we can. And if they want to do it, figure out a way that's going to work for them to get that done.
Heck. So neighborhoods could do this, like HOAs could do this, or supermarkets can do it, or even wide chains, or even just smaller chains, or convenience stores, or gas stations, for crying out loud.
And just so you know, I mean, look, when we do these projects, and that's maybe what's different between us and a traditional, just kind of an electrician or general contractor, is that, like, when we do this, like, it's supporting our mission of getting more people to make that switch, but like, we're trying to do it in a way that it's going to be used and enjoyed. And, we're not just doing it just to like wipe our hands and go, okay, there's your chargers, have fun. Like, we want to do it in a way that it is going to. And so we do a lot of stuff to also raise awareness. Once the project's done, if it's at a community like an apartment or a condo or an office, and they want to do a ribbon cutting or an informational event where we bring out all the different electric cars and, have a celebration, have a food truck, DJ, whatever they want to do to raise awareness or get people excited, like, we're happy to participate. And so when we help whether it's a convenience store or a apartment or whatever, part of our goal is to make it as positive of an experience as possible for their tenants, residents, constituents, whatever. And then, continue to ensure that those stations are being used and enjoyed.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you don't just walk away.
No. And again, like, and I haven't got to kind of throw this out there yet, but I mean, the part of the reason that we want them to be used and enjoyed is it's all around our mission of making our community more sustainable. So, I think we may have talked about this briefly, when you came in and we met last time, but just the idea that, every time somebody switches to an electric car, we are taking, CO2 and vehicle emissions out of our urban centers. And there is a very real statistical correlation between respiratory illness and death and air quality, which is a direct result of vehicle emissions. And so, if we can get, people to switch every time somebody makes that switch, if one less kid gets asthma, or somebody, doesn't get a respiratory condition because of, the fact that we had a charger somewhere, or because of the chargers that we've installed, we feel like we've done something meaningful, and something important and something good for this world. And so, that's just one of the reasons. I mean, my other favorite reason is just, when you fill up with gas in Georgia, most of your money just not leaves the state, never to return. But every time somebody fills up with electricity, that money that's being paid for that electricity is going to our local utilities, and that keeps the money here in our community. And I would argue that if enough people do that, you've created extra jobs in your local community, and those people, are then getting paid with that money that stayed in our community. And as long as they don't go spend it on gas, maybe it stays here, right? So, those are just a couple of reasons why we think it's so important to design a project that is going to actually get used, and we're not just out there just to put it out there for the sake of doing it. We're saying we install the charger. We want to get the intended result out of it. So that's part of our mission,
Yeah. Aaron, I've got a question sort of back to, when Dan was the strip mall owner and, was thinking about getting one of these. What does the conversation look like when you're talking to someone that you're getting objections, or that maybe they're just like, they feel like it's like, these electric cars, I mean, they've been talking about it for years. It's not really happening. There's all of these problems. What does that look like in terms of, helping to move them off of that sort of maybe disinterested, do I really need it?
Well, the first thing I'll say is, hey, maybe it's not a fit for everybody, right? Like, so there's some people that maybe it just, it's not going to work for them. I mean, I think, there's a lot of different reasons why people may want to do this. So again, there's the kind of environmental piece of it, right? Like, feel like you're doing something for your community. If that doesn't resonate, there are also economic reasons to do it as a potential store. So number one, I mean, I think like at this point, it's a bit of an easier sell because all the major manufacturers have committed to going all electric. And so this is something that like these locations it's coming to be expected. And all you have to do is kind of point out the guy down the street who's doing it, or, other markets where it's already taken off and the guys who got left behind. Number one, it will drive traffic. Like I can speak anecdotally, and like, a lot of my staff, I mean, we're all EV drivers, and we, all things equal, we will always go to the location that has a charging station over one that doesn't, whether it's the gym that I join, or, the golf course you're going to go to, or the thing you're going to do on the weekend. If you're going to go to a park, or go on a road trip, go to a winery, or whatever it is that you're going to do for fun. If they've got a charger and they're supporting the EV mission, like that's something that, and just, again, if it's a long drive somewhere where we can, refuel while we're there enjoying whatever that is, like that is a benefit. And I won't stay at a hotel. I'm on the road a lot, as you can see. And I won't stay at a hotel that doesn't have an EV charger. So, hospitality, it's a big sell, for them and it's something that's coming to be expected at these types of locations. So knowing that all the different, manufacturers are going electric, knowing this is something you may have to do at some point, knowing that there is currently a lot of money available, to get it done, for little to no cost right now versus, and this happens where like, certain programs expire, right? And, I tell the guy, maybe they don't move forward, right? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't always make them drink. I can tell a prospect, hey, like my biggest fear is that, you guys are going to decide down the road that you need this or that you want this, and the money is no longer going to be available, and you're going to have to spend a bunch of money. Wow. And they go, yeah, sure. Whatever.
Pay me now, pay me later type of deal.
You always get those, but then they call me up a year later and say, hey, we're ready to do that free EV project or whatever. And I go, well, I'm sorry to tell you, the program that we were going to use to get you funded is no longer available. And then the next thing is, okay, well, how much is it going to cost? And then, all right, well, let me go pull up the estimate again. Okay, it was, $70,000 or whatever. So they have to spend, or $20,000 or whatever that number is, right? Like they have to spend $30,000 to get something they could have had earlier and gotten for free or for almost nothing, a fraction of the cost. And now they're getting it later than their competition, and they're spending a bunch of money. So, those are the kind of concerns that I say, look, maybe, I don't know. I wouldn't presume to know what's more important to you, right? Like waiting to see, if this is something you want to do, or, maybe taking that, making that decision to do it now when it's not going to cost you anything. Worst case scenario, you don't need to use it, or you can take it out, but at least you got it for free. And so, what we're saying is if this is something you think you may want to do at some point, and there is a program available right now, it may be worth considering going ahead and moving forward with a project or something like that.
Would it make sense? Because I'm just thinking financial wise, I imagine it would increase the value of your house, even if you don't have an electric car.
Yeah. So it's interesting you mentioned that. Yeah. So that's something I think about, because we have 2 chargers at my house. And then I also have energy storage, which I think is also a big sell. I could go on about that as well.
That's just a sales technique, but this is, this is absolutely right. Now with that, you're with Georgia Powder right now. Did their funding source expire?
Well, I think, unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to speak to that.
Okay.
Exactly on the details of that. That's something that, unfortunately, I think would need to come from them in terms of their communications on the program. What I can say is basically the program is set to expire. It's supposed to expire at the end of the year or when the funding runs out, whichever comes first. But I wouldn't be able to speak to the amounts that are available or anything like that.
Okay.
However, we'll see. Maybe that program gets renewed, maybe it doesn't. But yes, there are people who may miss out on this round with them, and that's happening all over the country with different programs. I mean, there are new programs being created as well, and we have a whole department dedicated to helping our customers identify like which programs would make sense for them, or which they might. And we even help with the application process, whether it's grant applications, rebates, subsidies, all that kind of stuff. We try to help with all of those processes.
Okay, you can get it there. All right. So, and your main thing right now is for vehicles. Like that's the main push right now. Is that correct?
I mean, more or less. I mean, yeah. So we, as a general and electrical contractor, we get asked to do other stuff, but if it's not a sustainability project, we won't do it. We'll dabble, we'll do solar, we'll do energy storage. But in terms of, our bread and butter, 99% of the work we do is all electric vehicle infrastructure related.
Okay, so let me tell you that the challenges to an electric vehicle, which are getting smaller and smaller, but how do you overcome this? So I live in a cold environment. Sometimes we get stuck with accidents on the highway, and I'm sitting there forever. What if I'm in traffic and not only my car runs out, but there's a significant number of other cars that just run out of electricity sitting there in traffic?
Well, I don't know how common that would be. I mean, I would say you probably planned poorly for your day, because, sitting in traffic, you're not really using much of the mileage. So, I mean, you should, most of it's going to come when you're actually driving. And the cars do a pretty good job of telling you how many miles of range you have. So, I would argue the first thing is that's a benefit is in, cold weather. The cool thing is if you live in a house, or even a lot of communities where we have chargers, you actually just get to wake up with a full tank every morning. You don't have to go out in the cold to a gas station and plug in. You're plugging in your garage, and the night before you come home from a long day at work, you plug in, you wake up with a full tank the next day. I don't know how much you're driving in one day, to drive 300 miles and run out on the road in the cold weather or whatever. But the other thing is, even if you are kind of stuck in traffic or something like that, I'd argue electric cars are superior for those types of situations, because they're the vehicles that have all of the self-driving technology. Like they have the best self-driving and autopilot technologies is going to be with the electric cars. So like for me, I actually don't mind stop and go. It's a game changer having self-driving. And so I probably shouldn't say this, but I mean, I've fallen asleep with the autopilot.
Take a little nap. I was just going to ask that. That's funny.
Yeah. How are these vehicles on resale value? That's something that I've never heard. Like do the batteries, a 5-year-old car, can you sell these things?
Well, they seem to hold their value better than gas cars. I mean, you could buy, there was a time, I don't know if this is still the case, but not too long ago, where a used Tesla was as much, if not more, than it was new, because people couldn't get them, and they're trying to get them a lot faster than they're being produced. The cool thing is about electric cars is that there's not much maintenance on them at all. So that's another benefit. Not only do you get to wake up with a full tank in the morning, there's no oil changes. There's no brake change. I've never changed the brakes on my 2014 because you usually are not using the brakes. When you want to slow down, and maybe people don't know this if they never drill an electric car, you just take your foot off the gas and it slows the car down and it recharges the battery. And so you unless a deer jumps out in front of you or something, you're really not putting much wear and tear on the brakes, and they last forever. There's no oil in the car. There's no.
Oop.
I think we're losing it here.
You see that?
Yeah, it's a little bit like driving a golf cart, is what my experience. It's a little bit like a really big golf cart.
I remember when I went somewhere on a trip, and they upgraded me with the rental car, and then they said, and they said, don't worry about the gas because you're such a good person here. We'll pay the gas for you and all that stuff. Then I realized it was an electric car. I didn't use any gas. It was the craziest thing, and it was like a mini. They asked me, "Did you want the sports car or the minivan?" So of course, the Deej, I go for the minivan. There's so much more room. It's crazy. Right. I don't know why people would do. They have to bend it. It's like it drives so well and it works so perfectly. Now we have a Crispin Cruz asked a question.
Yeah, there's questions for our guest who will need to reconnect right now, Chris. And there's also a question from Denise that we've got started. So hang tight and hopefully
I'll answer it. Come on.
Okay. All right.
Are children's hospitals locations supporting them or have them installed as well as other hospitals? Of course there are. But if you work in one, Denise, you need to contact us, and we'll go ahead and make the connection, give you the commission, because that's how we roll here. All right, next question.
Look at that opportunity. Chris Cruz.
Crispin Cruz. What are the challenges that you've experienced in growing company that quickly? Any tips? Okay, well, Crispin Cruz, since I met with Aaron the other day and quizzed him on this, the thing that's I'll say what the tips to help grow, and then I'll do the challenges after. The tips that help grow is he realized from the start that the definition of a business is having a customer. And so he did all he could to keep getting customers. He talks about that Tesla deal that he'd go on a weekly basis and beg them. He went on a weekly basis and begged them for over a year of getting it. And you get little nibbles here and there before he worked out that deal. So understanding that the definition of business is having a customer. The challenges, of course, I think they grew from, like, I'm just making up numbers, but let's say from 50,000 in his first year to here he's back again.
Back. Sorry,
back
guys. I don't know
action.
what happened there. A little technical difficulty.
That's okay. I was channeling you, and which
is scary. I know,
yes.
Aaron. So.
And Crispin Cruz had a question for you. He said, what are some of the challenges that you've experienced in growing this company? And any tips? I already gave him the tips, but what were some of the challenges?
Sure. So it's a double-edged sword. Remember all the programs that I mentioned that are out there that would help build our business. So, we were relying on a lot of these programs that were helping fund our growth and our projects. And what ended up happening sometimes was we would be doing, it was so beneficial to do one particular type of program that we would start diverting as a small business. And, so the starting investment that I put in the company that remained my only investment was $5,000, right? And so we grew organically over the years. We did 50,000 year one, 500,000 year two, $1 million year three, $2 million year four, and then within a couple of years, we're doing $6 6 million. This year we're on track to do 12. So we are continuing to grow, but all that started with just, again, like an initial $5,000 investment, and never really invested again until we decided the timing was right last year to really try to, there was a huge market opportunity and we just, would not be able to keep up organically. So the timing was right. But the challenge was growing organically and using these different programs. We got reliant on maybe one customer, and I won't name names, but basically there would be one program, and this has happened multiple times throughout the company. And now we do a lot to hedge that. I've learned my lesson, but one of those programs will expire or dry up. And if you don't have and it's tempting, to focus all your resources in one spot because it is the most lucrative, right? Like this area has the most opportunity for us to make the most money on the most projects. Let's divert all of our resources to that customer or that market. And then what ended up happening was that program would expire. And next thing you know, it's like you got nothing behind it and you got to start from scratch and you're scrambling, because you got to make payroll and you got to keep, you've hired up all these people to focus, to serve this one program or this one customer, and then it gets cut. Yep. If they don't renew it, or it gets cut early, or it runs out of funding, and it's like, oh, snap, And so we've done a lot better about diversifying, even if it's not as ideal from a just immediate return standpoint, to extend a little bit beyond just kind of our most profitable area. And so I don't know, maybe some people would argue you focus on your highest producing customer, and but I still think there's maybe a healthy diversity that you need to have. You don't want to be so overextended across so many small or so many customers that are not just the right fit, where you're spending a lot of time on somebody that's not really, the right customer for you, or not in your wheelhouse, or not just a good fit for your business model. But you want to identify at least a subset of different programs or different customers, depending on what your business is. And, always kind of have that backup plan in case something, ends, where you're not just scrambling to produce revenue out of thin air so that you can continue to make payroll or whatever.
That's great.
Or even just a challenge like COVID, right? I mean, you've got to have, different things going on, because all of our West Coast projects got shut down during COVID. And so fortunately we had stuff going on the East Coast. It was still a bit of a challenge, but you're able to limp by until things come back, right?
There's something to be said about momentum. And actually, and one of the most important things that you've brought up several times is your direction, your meaning, your purpose, your inspiration for it as far as sustainability. Because no matter what, people have great intentions, but intentions don't really do anything if you're facing the wrong direction, and you're always facing north no matter what. And so eventually you're going to get there and overcome those challenges. And any business is like that. You just need to know the end result.
Well, when that's the question, we continue. That's something that's never changed. Like when we founded the company, we said we have a purpose, and that purpose is to promote and accelerate electric vehicle adoption. And that's what we believe in, and that's what we're trying to do. We believe it has meaning and it's important, and we're making the world better. And that's requisite for every employee that works with us. We don't want EnviroSpark to just, and so we built a great culture too. I mean, we don't want EnviroSpark to just be a job for people. We want it to be somewhere where they feel.
Oh,
yeah, we're losing audio.
Somehow we lost
blank screen here.
There we go.
Oh, there you go.
But yeah, so
all right. Well,
I lost my train of thought there.
I know. You know why? Because you're not a trained podcast professional.
Not at all.
Like Chris.
You mean you can tell? You can tell, Dan?
Oh, you're killing it. Let me tell you something. There's a very few people that you just have to press a button and let them go. But you are one of those people. And I think the reason is, and this is true for you salespeople out there too, the reason why Aaron's able to eloquently display his knowledge and expertise about this topic is because he's passionate about it. He loves it. He likes it. He's sincere about it. And it just bleeds through the airways. So that is awesome, my friend.
Well, Dan, I'll say this, and not to pick on, I mean, I'm going to have to pick on some industry, no disrespect to, so like copiers, right? Like I could never go out and sell like fax machines or something like that, right? Like it's like I don't think I would be good at it. I don't think I would be successful. Like I'd have to truly believe that it was the greatest copy machine you had ever seen, and that it was really making a difference to, you know, that person's office to have that copy machine in order to be able to sell it. And so, yeah, I mean, I think, you know, sales, I think it's so important that you find, if you're building a sales team or if you're starting a business or whatever, that you find something that you are so excited about that you can get, you know, your clients excited about it. You can get your team or your staff excited about it. You know, it's just, there's so many, like selling something that you don't believe in, I think would be really hard.
Yeah. Well, you know, Newt Rockney said one of the best inspirational things that I heard. He was talking about, they asked him, you know, or maybe it was Vince Lombardi. They said, you know, how do you get your team so motivated? And because they were animals when they get out, how do you get your team so motivated? And he just answered, well, here's the thing. I cut the unmotivated ones. and so he's just left with, because I think a lot of that has to come from within. One need, you know, everybody has different interests in different, because like Crispin Cruz just said, to keep your pipeline full, the way to keep that momentum going is to constantly getting new customers. It constantly out prospecting for new customers, constantly filling the pipeline with new people. And each time you talk to someone new and introduce them to your world, you have an opportunity to exchange that energy. Like I got to tell you, I'm a big downer on electric vehicles before I met you. You know, because
no hard feelings.
When something's
it's not
new,
unusual.
Well, yeah. Well, the thing is, and I think now that I'm thinking in my head as you're talking, if it were to break down, I have no idea how to fix it. Like, I know how to fix cars. I mean, I understand the engineering of cars. I understand
let's talk about that for a sec, Dan. So
okay,
I think it's, and don't quote me on this exactly, but I think it's pretty close. There is one part for every 100 in your gas car. There's maybe like one part in an electric car for every 100 in a gas. It's very simplistic. There's not much to go to break in an electric car. That's what I love about it. It's like I forget, having driven an electric car for so many years, all the things that I don't have to do now. I never, you know, have to take it in for service. There's no oil changes. You know, there's rarely any maintenance or anything like that. It's just, and they're constantly updating stuff over the air. I mean, it's just, with even, you know, you don't have to know how to work on a car to have an electric car, because there's just not much to have to do, which is pretty darn cool.
All right. Well, the other thing
Sorry
that
to cut you off. I get all excited.
No. I want to be. I am easily persuadable.
Not true. You really did a great job, Aaron. He's not easily persuaded.
Well, let me tell you, he's a great salesperson. I know you're going to say your thing, but even see, you guys didn't know this, but the skill with which is in my brain is beyond compare. But even when Aaron was pointing, and he was actually pointing at me, you know, over the screen like this. But nobody likes this. Nobody likes the finger. No matter who you are, this is like the worst thing in any country ever to do. Nobody likes this, but he didn't do that. He did this. Everybody loves this. So he pointed at me like this. That right there is a true professional.
That's what flight attendants do, right?
Yeah,
they do this, they don't do this, right? So a little inside baseball, and then we've got another question here from the car buying public, the electric car buying public here.
Sure.
So, one of the other things that I've heard, I've got a neighbor who has a Tesla, and he's kind of giving me, you know, pros, cons, that whole thing, is he's said that the battery, in terms of the time it takes to charge it, is a little weird. And so, like, you can't just go, oh, here's a thing, just like you would fill up your gas tank, and all of a sudden you can go another X hundreds of miles. It's sort of like when you set it up to charge, it'll charge, and then it takes a long time to charge most of that. So what do we do in cases of those where there's objections, and like, how does that sort of look for people who are still sort of hesitant, because they just, you know, in my experience, most people don't like to go through any trouble, right? They just want it easy.
But
that doesn't sound easy.
And look, I may be biased here, but I actually would argue it's more convenient to have an electric car. At least, you know, the ones that I drive, like I'll say this. Number one, like, you know, most people don't drive more than 300 miles in a day. I think the average is maybe 50, right? So you could literally come home, you know, unless you're on a road trip where you're just running around town, which is not most people, you are waking up with a full tank every day, regardless. Like just your basic charger, which costs $550, and then maybe a couple $100 for installation one time. You know, you get that set up at your house, and then you get to wake up with a full tank whenever you want, so you don't have to worry about it. And then let's talk about the road trips, because maybe that is the concern. I actually prefer, I would still rather, even if I had a gas car that I could do a road trip in, I would use my electric car. Just number one, the self-driving and the autopilot. I feel like I actually, so people say, yeah, okay, after driving 4 hours, you do have to wait for maybe 30 minutes to refuel, right? That is one of the concerns, right? And that
30 minutes, that's all?
Yeah,
just
with the fast
minutes?
chargers. Yeah. For the most part, 30 to 40 minutes, you can get mostly full. And that's getting shorter and shorter, you know, with updates in equipment and vehicles and things like that. That number should continue to go down. However, after I've been driving 4 hours, I certainly don't mind stopping for 30 minutes, grabbing a bite to eat, using the restroom. I could be, that's just me, right? Like, so I totally get if other people are like, I want to get in and get out. Makes sense. They'll say, oh, I lose part of my trip, or I lose part of my life having to, you know, wait 30 minutes for the car to refuel or whatever. I would argue I get 4 hours back that you have to be looking at the road. And I probably shouldn't be saying this. I hope I don't get like a ticket in the mail or something, but it's like, you know, it's like a day at the office for me. I get the laptop out, turn on the autopilot. It's like, you know, it's that good. It's like, I've been using it for so many years now. I trust the system. There's so many cameras. There's so many redundancies. Like for me, it's like, I can watch movies and, you know, it's, again, probably shouldn't be saying that. Allegedly, I may do that. We'll leave it at that. But like, I get 4 hours of not having to pay attention to the road for the most part. Whereas you are exhausted from driving for 4 hours. So yeah, maybe you get a 5-minute stop or a 10-minute stop, you know, when you refuel, but you had 4 hours of grinding, you know, grinding it down the highway where I kind of got to enjoy my trip. Like I would never fly anywhere if I didn't want to get back to my family quicker. You know, if we're going somewhere as a family, I'd rather drive just because it's so convenient in my electric car. So, I mean, that's what I would say. But again, I'm one person, right? Like, so maybe other people look at it differently.
That is probably the best, you know, the best advertisement for EV cars. It's just that good. That's dynamite.
Well, and how often are you actually on a road trip? That's like, you know, 1% of your time in the car, if that. It's like people are hung up on like how long it would take to charge during a road trip, which again, like I would say after 4 hours of sitting, like 30 minutes, like grabbing a bite to eat is not a big deal. But, you know, but the convenience of waking up with a full tank every day versus having to go to, and it's not to mention it's way cheaper than gas. Like look at gas prices today. Like it's less than half the cost. It's probably, you know, a third of the cost to fill up, depending on what your utility rate is and everything. I mean, it could be, you are saving so much money by filling up with electricity versus gas, and you get to wake up, you know, ready to go whenever you want. It's like I would argue it's more convenient.
You know what, Aaron? This interview was even better than I thought it would be, and I thought it was going to be really good.
Well, I appreciate it.
Thanks. That's awesome. So how do people get in touch with you? I know whoever's watching this is interested in finding out about EV cars and you know, charging stations, or maybe they own a building, or there you go.
That's my email right there. I'm happy to talk to any. I mean, this is what I love doing more than, I mean, yeah, you know, I have to run the business, but like my favorite thing to do is to get people excited about electric cars, and happy to talk and answer questions and, you know, help people explore whether it's just getting an electric car. I mean, even if there's nothing, you know, even if we don't install a charger for someone, I'm happy to just kind of help people figure out like if it's something they might want to do, or which model they're considering. Like we've got a whole team that lives and breathes this stuff, and we're just out here, you know, we're happy you're thinking about it, happy people are considering it, and you know, it doesn't cost anything to explore what that might look like, you know, with us. If somebody's considering either getting an electric car or having a station installed on their property, we're happy to help you try to drive traffic to your location or create an amenity that will add value for your tenants, patrons, residents, citizens, whatever it may be.
Well, that's awesome. I cannot believe this has been an hour. You see, we could have charged our Tesla twice already.
There you go.
In this time that we're doing. That's unbelievable. Chris Stone.
You know what else they can do, Dan? When they get that 30-minute break and everything's getting charged, they can watch Dan Jourdan show.
That's right. I know.
Well, like you get that benefit.
How much?
Well, I'll say this. Yeah, that 30-minute break. So like my car has it has Hulu, Netflix, Disney Plus.
Oh my gosh.
There's a full suite of like arcade games you can play. You can even hook up your like PlayStation controller and play games on the big screen. I mean, there's so many cool things.
Your vacation starts as soon as you get into the car.
Yeah. So
welcome to the future.
Well, this is great. So for you guys out there watching, just remember this is the hot market. You don't have to start on your sales career and, really just grind it out and try to explain everything. Everybody, right now, this is the hot market. This is the place to be in. I'm sure if you called Aaron and asked him for a sales job, he might want to talk to you. There's plenty of opportunities in this field and doing something good for the planet. Other than watching
put a plug out there, yeah, we're hiring on all sides of the business. Whether that's we're aggressively because we have to. There's just so much infrastructure that has to be built. So we're hiring electricians, project managers, project coordinators, administrative, accounting, sales. Like there's so much growth happening right now at our business, and we see the people coming in now as the future leaders of the companies. And so that's who we're looking for, and we're looking for people that are passionate about our mission and what we're trying to do. We think that's really important, and we're trying to maintain that as we grow.
This is it. Can you imagine, a pipe layer when they first started, laying pipe around the country in concrete working? This is what it's like. It's like working with Aaron is like working with Andrew Carnegie when he was getting started. This is the place to be, ladies and gentlemen. So you do it. Remember, when you're getting started in your career, be passionate about what you want, get into a hot market, and keep your direction pure, and you're bound to succeed. Chris Stone, you're the best. Aaron, I can't believe that you did this from your Tesla and you didn't even honk your horn. Go ahead, honk your horn. Does it sound like a song?
Oh, which?
Oh, it's just that.
No, I don't have it on, but yeah, there's a whole suite of options.
I thought it was supposed to be fancy.
He's been playing video games this entire time.
I can have it play La Cucaracha if you want. I'm not even kidding. It's an option.
All right, well, La Cucaracha, and we'll sign off with La Cucaracha. Go ahead, set it up.
It'll take me just a sec here to update the horn sound here.
In the meantime, Chris Stone will be throwing up confetti. And shaking his head.
When I hear that, I mean, this is what I think about.
So there's all sorts of. I will say there's a number of cool things that it comes with. There's also the you have a megaphone where you can even hey, move out of the way. Like you can literally talk through some sort of exterior speaker.
It's like a Mr. Microphone.
So here it is. So
all right, here it is.
Horn sound.
I got to sign off right after that because I got a 1 o'clock.
It may be outside of the car. I don't know if you can hear it.
All right, well, that's cool.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if you got.
We can't even hear it.
But yeah, it plays it outside the car, so you can't hear it. Sorry.
Listen, no worries. We gave it a good shot. This is called live TV. You guys are the best. Stick around when we're done here for a second. You guys are the best. I'm the Deej. Go get them today.
Go get them.
Thank you.